Bengals had an opportunity on Sunday Night Football to let us go peacefully. They were down, 27-6? There was an opportunity for them to let us go to bed. Just let it go away. Let the season fade away. We can be in bed by 11 o'clock, but no. They can't do that to us this year. They enjoy torturing us a little bit too much, so they had to come back, tie it up at 27, miss a couple field goals, and then let the Chargers march down the field at the end to win it. What a brutal Sunday night. What an awful time to have, and isn't it fun to wake up on a Monday morning to start your week having stayed up past midnight to watch the Cincinnati Bengals wet the bed in 2024 once again? Welcome in. Let's have a fun show. You are in the jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. This is the most frustrating season for me. I've been alive since 1989 and conscious since 1996. For me, this is the most frustrating season of all time for the Cincinnati Bengals. Just brutal, up and down. Every team's got these close games. The Bengals just continuously find a way to not win them, right? If you've listened to this show, I've been pretty positive throughout. And one thing I always say, and I've always said, and a lot of people always say, it's nothing that deep or that original to come up with, but good teams find ways to win games. If you believe that, and I think most decently smart humans do, then it stands to reason that you also believe bad teams find ways to lose games. And let me tell you what, the Cincinnati Bengals are bad. Yeah, they have some incredible players. I don't need to name them. You know who they are. But overall, as a team, they stink. They stink to high heavens, and it's awful. The Bengals needed upgrades. They needed upgrades in the offseason. The crazy thing is, I follow 7 people on Twitter who called all this out before the season started. No one really saw the secondary being as bad as it is, but the interior O-line and the lack of a pass rush outside of Trey Hendrickson on defense, I know guys who work 9-to-5s who all saw it coming. The Bengals needed upgrades, and they just ignored them. They ignored them, and now they're paying the price. It's like Mike Brown driving around in his 2006 Buick and then getting stranded in a snowstorm. Well, you ignored the issue and drove around on 4 bald tires all fall, and now it's time to pay the dues because you got nothing and you got nowhere to go because you ignored your issues. This is what this team has done now for a couple years. Last year, you had the Burrow injury to kind of, give you an excuse. Don't have that this year. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing at an MVP level. In the last 2 games, he's thrown 7 touchdowns, no picks. He's thrown for 784 yards and 102-point-something rating. 0-2. Because this team just has so many flaws. Interior offensive line stinks. They've got no pass rush up the middle. They let DJ Reader walk, brought in Sheldon Rankins. He can't play because he gets sick. You're an NFL player. What type of illness do you come up with on a Sunday morning that you can't play football? What is this team doing? Just the most frustrating season I have seen as a fan. No interior offensive line. And Joe Burrow's getting battered. You saw him walking off the field, ticked off in the third quarter. What are we doing here? Why pay a guy $250 million if you're just going to let him get pummeled the entire time? Again, I know you can't be perfect all around, but this interior line between Cordell Volson and Alex Kappa, the 2 guards, it was quite clear the last couple years that they weren't ascending. They weren't getting better. Cordell Volson, I'll tell you this, man, for getting them in the 4th round, he's been a fine guy. He's a very good depth piece, and he's probably worthy of starting in the NFL. But the issue is when you see his play the last couple years, he's not a guy you just go, yeah, that's good enough. That'll work. Yeah, he's probably the 23rd best guard. Not even that, probably the 33rd best guard in the NFL. Somewhere in there. I don't know what PFF rates him. I don't trust PFF grading because last night on the broadcast, I saw that they have Jamar Chase ranked 8th amongst wide receivers in the NFL. So they've got some figuring out to do themselves. But let's focus on the Bengals here. There are issues on this team. And I've said this before, but last night it was glaringly obvious. There are issues on this team that the team clearly said, and the front office clearly said, let's hope it works out. Let's hope we can squeeze another year out of Alex Kappa. Let's hope that he magically gets a little better. Let's hope that Von Bell is better. Let's hope that Geno Stone works as well here as he did in Baltimore. You think maybe it's the fact that Baltimore has a competent franchise who year in and year out puts good product on the field? There's a reason Baltimore was willing to let him go at that price. Let's hope that we can save $2 million and replace DJ Reader, the anchor of this defense over the last 5 years. Let's hope we can replace him with Sheldon Rankins, who has been invisible. He was out yesterday and it didn't matter. Let's hope that Sam Hubbard, who apparently needed surgery in the offseason but decided to skip it at the age of almost 30, is just as good as he's always been. Let's hope Myles Murphy works out. He hasn't. Quit drafting these projects. By the way, number 45 for the Chargers, who is terrorizing Joe Burrow last night, he's got 7 sacks on the year, which is 7 more than Myles Murphy. He was drafted 26 spots after him. And this is the Chargers we're talking about. We're not even talking about the Steelers and Ravens, 2 of the top 5 organizations in football. We're talking about the Chargers, who did everything they could, by the way, to let the Bengals win last night. They gave Evan McPherson, hot new contract Evan, Money Mac, they gave him 2 opportunities to go ahead. Wet the bed. Just brutal, man. Just brutal. And it's like, after I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to put it up, and I'm not going to think about this team for the rest of the week. That's a lie. I will. But I'm going to do my best not to, because I'm sick of wasting my energy on it. I'm sick of staying up till midnight and going to bed ticked off. 2 weeks in a row. Thank God there's a bye week. They got to get better. I don't know. I mean, look, if you can't, that's the thing. Like, they can still go 10-7, sure. Which, by the way, in the preseason was kind of consensus. 10-7 is the worst this team can be if Joe Burrow plays all 17 games. Now that's the best they can be, despite him playing at an MVP level. That's how bad this organization is right now. They put all their eggs in this basket of, let's see what happens, and none of it happened. You can call that a bad break if you want. And listen, the Bengals have got a ton of bad breaks this year. That is without question true. But what did Dwight Schrute say? A real man makes his own luck. And the Bengals have not made any of their own luck this year. Fall behind 27-6? Yeah, things happen. Just no secondary. Now DJ Turner's hurt. Again, they've had some bad breaks. They're second and number 3. They're number 2 and number 3 corners coming into the year. Probably done for the year. We already know Dax Hill is, and DJ Turner looks like maybe he broke his collarbone. That is not confirmed yet, but it didn't look good when they rule you out that quickly. No interior pass rush. I mean, Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, you drafted them. Let them loose in there. But again, is this going to be a situation with those guys where 2 years from now we say, well, you drafted a guy in the 2nd and the 4th round. Let's hope they work out. I mean, they've got all these draft picks on the defensive line. They're just, I don't even know, I feel like I should just stop this podcast, this show right now, and just go back and look at, they're just throwing things at the wall and hoping they stick. And oftentimes, those things they're throwing at the wall have been sitting on the shelf far too long. They're just hoping a lot of things work out, and they're not. Good teams go out and they patch their holes up. You see it with Kansas City. You see it with Baltimore. The Bengals haven't done that. The Bengals kind of been like, well, let's see if we can skimp on this. Let's add some water to the milk and make it last a few more days. That's what they're doing, and it's not going well. Joe Burrow's great. Jamar Chase is great. T. Higgins, excellent when he's on the field. Trey Hendrickson, awesome. B.J. Hill, awesome. So you've hit on some in the past, but eventually that tide was going to turn. The tide has turned, and the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs because of it. I'm done with the, hey, win 5 in a row, win 6 of 7. You're not winning the last 5 in a row with this team. No one has found a way to wet the bed like this defense all season long. There's going to be a conversation about Zach Taylor. I mean, once again, overthinking it. It was early in the game. They get 1st and goal on the 3. They throw the ball. What even happened there? I don't remember. But they go from 1st and goal on the 3 to 3rd and goal on the 16. Run the ball. It's 1st and goal from the 3. Overthinks it week in and week out. And I think the pass was to Tanner Hudson. What dirt does Tanner Hudson have on Zach Taylor, by the way, that he's getting 6 targets a game? 1st and goal on the 3. They throw, they settle for 3. Would have made a difference later, huh? Boy, Evan McPherson's good from those 27-yarders this year. That's a whole other conversation. But Zach Taylor's overthinking things, and that's going to be... Here's the thing. He's not going anywhere. So we can sit around all we want and say Zach Taylor needs to go. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I haven't given it enough thought to form my own opinion. What I can say, and what I have said all year, he shouldn't be calling plays. He overthinks things. And I get that it's first and goal from the 3. That's just last night's example. We could go through several situations this year of just the overthinking it week after week after week. What are we doing? And then in the post-game press conference, he comes out and says, hey, this is still a good football team. I still believe we can do good things. I believe that he believes that. And I think that's part of the problem with Zach Taylor, is he's a little too happy-go-lucky. And that's a great quality to have in about 97% of human beings. But when you're a head football coach in this barbaric sport, you got to have somewhat of an edge to you. You don't have to be Dan Campbell. You don't have to be Bill Belichick. But you got to have somewhat of a little bit of grit to you. Dan Campbell, he's got all the grit. You don't need all the grit, but you need a little grit. When your guys get mauled, Zach Taylor, I don't want to see you going up to the refs with oh, come on, man. Were you kidding me stuff? Get pissed off. Throw F-bombs. Throw your headset. Do something. I don't know that he has that edge and that toughness to be the guy they need him to be. This is not a team and a franchise where you can just come out and, do the whole run and gun, it'll be fun type thing. This is a franchise that, because of the softness of the front offense and the whatever you want to call it when it comes, they need someone to kick them in the ass on a weekly basis, and he is not the guy to do that. I don't know. I do not know. Because I'm conflicted, because the locker room does seem to like him as a guy and as a coach. But as Jamar Chase said after the game, you got to ask them. Then they've got to ask themselves some questions, because it's the same stuff week in and week out. Yeah, I still believe we're a good team. We're right there in every game. Well, at some point, being right there in every game is not good enough. You might as well have lost 27-6. You might as well not let Joe Burrow take an extra 6 shots last night from the Chargers. First half, by the way, just a coaching mismatch. I mean, the Chargers are exploiting the Bengals' weaknesses, finding ways to take the things that they do worst and capitalize on them, and they're finding ways to take the things that the Bengals do best, red zone offense, and minimize them. And Zach Taylor was helping. I saw someone put out there, it's like Zach Taylor's coaching to not make the other team mad. Couldn't agree more. Last night was a coaching mismatch, and it was so obvious. Jim Harbaugh wins everywhere he goes. Look what he was doing. It's like he knew, hey, we can't overpower this team, but we can outsmart them, and they did. Now, Joe Burrow comes out in the second half and plays hero ball. The defense gets a little pep in their step. I'd love to know what was said at the halftime. Coaching mismatch. And that's the thing. Is Zach Taylor an okay head coach? Sure. But when you have Joe Burrow and you have Jamar Chase, this is attractive to coaches who are better than okay. So you got to decide if you're the front offense, and you're not very good. I don't know why I keep saying offense when I mean to say office. It was a late night and a long weekend. But if you're the front office, you have to decide. We've got the best quarterback we're probably ever going to have, and he's from a couple hours away. We've got a receiver who looks like he will be a lock, a first ballot Hall of Famer. Is your coach making them better or holding them back? Or even leaving them the same? That's the question. I don't know that he's a bad coach. I know that he is a great guy. I'm certain he's not a good play caller. Add all those things up. Can you do better? Again, I don't want to spend too much time on that because they're not going to fire him. He's under contract. I think the only way that comes up is if Joe Burrow comes in and says, hey, we need a change. And I don't know that we'll do that. I don't know that he'll do that. This coaching staff isn't disliked. Give her work. I'm sure we've all done this, by the way. You work with a person who, like, good person, cool to be around, but then you have to, like, work directly with them on something. And you're like, my God. We've all worked with those people. It's probably what Burrow and Jamar are thinking right now. They love Zach Taylor. You want to go out to dinner? Cool. You want to review film together? Cool. But when push comes to shove and you're on Sunday Night Football, maybe you want someone else calling the plays. Let Joe Burrow call the plays. He can do it. No doubt he can do it. This team has wasted 2024. Absolutely wasted this season. This is going to be Jamar Chase. I was looking at the numbers today. I'll bring them up later on a different podcast because I'm not going to do the math here on the show. He is on pace to break the receptions record, the receiving yards record, and the touchdown records for the Bengals in a single season. Joe Burrow is going to blast a bunch of records away as well. The Bengals are going to have the best individual quarterback and receiver single seasons in franchise history. Wasted. Joe Burrow's leading the league in passing yards. Let's look at who else is up there, by the way. I'm going to pull this up because, yeah, Joe is the only one over 3,000. Lamar's next, about 150 yards behind. And then you have Kirk Cousins, who wet the bed. Geno Smith with a big... All the other guys are kind of in the mix. But man... By the way, 3 of the top 4 receiving yardage leaders are in the AFC North. You got Jamar at 1, Justin Jefferson at 2, George Pickens finally having a year at 3, and Zay Flowers at 4. So, isn't that great? Isn't that great that the Steelers and Ravens are finally figuring things out at the receiver position after a few years off? In this division, this is why you can't have your head up your butt, because you have 2 of the top 5 best-run organizations in the NFL in your division. You cannot take your foot off the gas if you're the Bengals, and they have. The front office has said, let's see how it goes. Let's see if we can get a few more seasons out of this 04 Buick. Let's see if our 93 Camry can get us from Cincinnati to Dayton with low tire pressure and hasn't had an oil change in 7 years. Wasted 2024. Just wasted 2024. Trey Hendrickson still leading the league in sacks by 2.5. Just a brutal year. And it's frustrating because you spend all this time. I mean, watching the games, that's 3 hours. Doing your fantasy, listening to this podcast, me doing this podcast. You spend all this time, and for what? You know, when I used to be a reporter, one thing that so if you go into sports reporting, you are a big sports fan growing up, as I was, and as I obviously still am. But one thing that you quickly realize, and it's disheartening, and it will tone down your fandom, is that oftentimes, and I've not been in this Bengals locker room in 8 years, so I don't know what this locker room's like. But oftentimes, you would realize, when you first start going into these locker rooms as a reporter, and you see fans who are irritated and mad, and you've been that fan, but you're being professional right now because you're a reporter, or oftentimes I was covering teams that I didn't care about the outcome. That was far more often than not, actually, before I got to Cincinnati. But you don't show your emotion as a reporter. You're not supposed to anyways. But you realize pretty early on, and every reporter will tell you this, a lot of times the players don't quite care as much as the fans. And it kind of feels like the front office feels the same way right now. They want to win, but at what cost? At what cost? Do they care as much as we think they should care? Because we're all going into this saying, hey, we're living and dying by this team. So many of my friends in their 30s just want to see the Bengals get a Super Bowl. We were all thrilled a few years ago when they finally got a playoff win. I was 32 years old the first time I saw them win a playoff game. And I haven't missed many games in my life. I've dedicated hundreds, if not definitely thousands of hours at this point to this team. Are they doing the same for us? Are they doing everything they can? We know that some organizations do. So I don't want to hear the excuse of, doing our best. They're out there trying, not as hard as you could. Or maybe there just needs to be different people trying to make ends meet here. You got to wonder at this point, with the mentality that the Steelers and Ravens have in this division and that the Chiefs have, and I would actually say the Bills are probably unfortunately closer to the Bengals in this capacity than those other three teams. They are keeping their foot on the gas. They are continuously, even when they're really good. The Ravens went to the AFC Championship last year, hosted it. What'd they do? They went out and got Derrick Henry. Even when these teams are really good, they're putting their money out there to get better. They're not hoping. They're ensuring that their teams get better. Are the Bengals doing that? I feel like they're hoping a lot more than they're ensuring. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating. It's the most frustrating season of my lifetime. 4-7. Going into December, 3 games under 500, playing the Steelers to open December, who, by the way, salt in the wound, now control their own destiny to take away the AFC 1 seed. The Pittsburgh Steelers, who we all as Bengal fans thought coming into the season, you're going to go 8-9 or 9-8 again, and you're going to get bounced in the wild card. They are now the 2 seed in the AFC. They now beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day, and they'll own the 1 seed if they keep winning from here. A lot of football to be played, but the Steelers, as we go into Thanksgiving week, are going to control their own destiny for the 1 seed in the AFC. And the Bengals are going to miss the playoffs. One organization takes this stuff seriously. The other one, maybe not as serious as they should. Infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. A wasted season. I didn't even really get to Evan McPherson, and I don't even know what we can say at this point. I'll say this. As frustrating as it is, the whole thing is not his fault. That operation does not look smooth. They're taking it down to the zeros on the play clock every time between the snap and the hold. 2 different guys that were there from his rookie year when he was incredible. So is it frustrating? Does it fall on him? Yes. Does that unit need to be better as a whole? Yes. Is this another situation where you would think that the Bengals would realize, hey, this long snapper and this holder don't seem to be doing as well as they did in the past when we had other guys in there. Maybe we should upgrade? Once again, hope in one hand, extend the other, and see what happens. Which one fills up faster? Name the movie. 4-7. Wins all stink, by the way. 3 of the wins are against 2-8 teams. The other ones are against the 3-7 Panthers. They haven't done anything. Well, I feel a little better. I don't know that I do, but I think I will. I'm not even angry. I'm just disappointed. You put so much time and so much belief in this team. And again, it's like I was just saying a minute ago. Do the guys on the field and in the front office care as much as the fans? It doesn't seem like it. Some of them certainly. Joe Burrow, yep. Do you see him in the post-game press conferences? No doubt. And it's no coincidence guys like him and Jamar and Trey Hendrickson freaking out on the sidelines, by the way, as he should, as his head coach should. It's no coincidence that the guys are the most ticked off on the field about this are also the best players on the field. Every part of that is related. Because if you're getting ticked off over the little things on the field, you're getting ticked off over the little things off the field. And when you do everything right, you become great. That's what Jamar does. That's what Joe does. That's what Trey does. Not everyone's doing that. And that's why the Bengals are 4-7 and will not make the playoffs. It's a sad truth that this team does not always do the things they need to do to ensure that they are a competitive team. Hoping instead of making sure. That's a slogan of the last couple years for this team. All right, let's wrap this up. If you've listened this long, thank you. I appreciate it. You're a good friend. If If you like it, give it a subscription on YouTube. Tap the subscribe button, give it a rating, leave it a comment, do whatever you want to do. I interact with the comments. Some people say leave comments just to get more comments, and then they don't reply. I reply because I'm a good man. We'll have another show out either Friday or, let's do Friday. I'll put a shorter one out Friday. I've got more thoughts. Let's try to keep these to about 25, 30 minutes. So, all right, my name's Matt Edwards. This is In the Jungle. The Bengals are 4-7. They've got a bye week this week. The Steelers play the Browns on Thursday Night Football. That will be a disaster for the Cleveland Browns, who, by the way, were favored in New Orleans and lost by 21. Sometimes people are like, well, it could be worse. It could be the Browns. I would have quit on the Browns a long time ago. So the Bengals on a bye this week. Buffalo on a bye this week. And then Baltimore goes to Los Angeles, and I'm not going to watch that. I probably will. I'll probably be cooled off enough by then. As of right now, I could not watch another game in SoFi Stadium, a house of horrors, where the Bengals season has ended twice now in 4 years. Absolutely brutal. Hate that place. I've been there. It sucks. It's not a football stadium. It's a big spaceship that they put a football field in the middle of. If you want to watch a football game at a shopping mall, it's a great place to go to. It's In the Jungle. I'm Matt Edwards. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you this Friday as the Bengals go into a bye. They got to get healthy. They got to do, I don't know. See you Friday.